Hello and welcome to part 4 in a series of videos that I'm putting out where I break down all the fights taking place at UFC 236 from a betting perspective. Now I've already covered off the vast majority of fights taking place this weekend in parts 1, 2 and 3 of this video, and you can check those out by clicking the links in the description below where I'll put a link to each of those videos. Now I want to kick off this video by saying a massive thank you to everyone that has liked and shared these videos so far. It is helping the channel grow quite fast and I really appreciate your support. So around about this time I'd usually be asking you guys to hit the thumbs up on the video and I would do a live stream to say thank you, but no need to do that on this video because we have already smashed the target on parts 1, 2 and 3. So I am definitely doing a live stream this weekend for UFC 236, and in that live stream I'm going to be answering every single one of your questions in the live chat on the live stream. I don't care if I have to spend 3 or 4 hours on the video, I'll answer every single one of you. Anything to do with betting, bankroll management, money management, MMA, anything you want, I will answer you. And I will also be trying to find a decent value prop bet for all the fights taking place this weekend. So if you don't know what a prop bet is, a prop bet is basically a highly specific bet. So for example, if you were thinking of betting on let's say Holloway to win by knockout or TKO, that is a prop bet, and I'll be trying to find a decent value prop bet for every single one of these fights taking place this weekend. But I also want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has supported me by joining my website since I began this YouTube channel around 6 weeks ago. You know, I don't really promote my website that hard. I've had it for 5 years now and I've never done any kind of marketing or promotion. You'll very rarely see me even mention the website on social media because the majority of people just think it sounds too good to be true and it's a scam anyway. So I'm really happy to see so many of you joining me. I've actually hit a record in 5 years. I've never had this many members before. I'm actually close to my membership cap on elite members for the first time ever, where pretty soon I'm going to have to shut the website down to new members, which is absolutely brilliant. And your support means a lot to me, guys. Amongst all the shit that I have to read in the comments, you know, when I feel really down after letting you guys down after we have a loss, or, you know, seeing all the criticism I face on social media, you guys are basically what keeps me going, because every week I really want to work hard and try and give you guys the best chance of earning a profit. So you know who you are. I talk to you all the time in the chat room on my website, and your names are down below in the ticker. So even though these YouTube videos are a new thing and there's loads of new people, you know, joining us in the chat room, reaching out and stuff, just want you to know that you are definitely still my main focus. You are my priority. You come before all the other shit, and I will continue to bust my ass to make sure we consistently get our money in strong positions to keep grinding out profits. And with that said, I do want to just change the tone a little bit. Now, the reason why I left the thank yous to part 4 of this video was because only the real hardcores, the people that care, are going to be watching part 4 of this video. You know, all the casual gamblers, the people that come out the woodwork for the big fights, the trolls, the people that just want to make fun of me online and in the comments, the people that love watching fire burn when you have a losing bet, they love to come out and make fun of you. Those guys are going to be watching parts 1 and 2 of the video where I talk about the big fights. But if you're watching this, you're one of the real dudes. One of the guys that is interested in making money, is a big fan of MMA, a genuine person, a good person. And you're watching this video right now to try and see how I feel about some of these fights on the prelims that the majority of people won't care about. So you are the hardcore. So I'm talking to you because I care about you as a viewer. I know that you take betting seriously. I know you appreciate the work I do. So I want to put the important messages in this video, like the thank yous, and also like what I'm about to say. And I gotta be honest, guys, I am getting a little bit concerned with some of the messages that I'm receiving, and like DMs on Twitter or DMs on my website or people speaking to me in the chat room. I've had a few emails. I'm getting a lot of contact now from people because across parts 1, 2 and 3 of this video I've had close to 8,000 views, so you can imagine how many people getting in contact with me. And people that do contact me directly are really friendly, and I don't mind it at all. I respond to everyone. I love hearing from you guys. But one of the things that a lot of people have been reaching out to me to talk to me about is the Israel Adesanya versus Kelvin Gastelum fight. And I just want to clear a few things up. So in the video where I broke that fight down, I did say that this will be my biggest financial bet of the year on Adesanya to win, and that's absolutely true. He will be my biggest pre-fight bet of the year so far. Obviously, we're only in April. Now, probably isn't going to be my biggest bet of the year so far because the majority of my betting is done in live betting, and I tend to bet very big and aggressively in live betting. But certainly, in terms of pre-fight bets, he'll be by far my biggest. But what you also have to realise is that in this calendar year, I will be placing between 400 and 600 bets. I go for volume, I place a very high number of bets, and all I'm concerned about over the long term is that I win more than I lose. If Israel Adesanya goes and gets starched within 10 seconds against Kelvin Gastelum on Saturday night, it literally won't even put a dent in my bankroll. It's just one bet. It means nothing. I don't care any more about Adesanya winning than I cared about Jorge Masvidal winning a few weeks ago, or Diego Sanchez at the beginning of the month, or Tim Means, a bet that we lost a few weeks ago. It really doesn't bother me. I treat the Adesanya bet just like the Belal Muhammad bet, just like any other. But for some reason, there seems to be a lot of focus on this particular bet and people building it up to be something huge, where in reality, the Israel Adesanya bet, in terms of my emotional state or my commitment to it, is no different to when I put a small bet on Veronica Macedo. You should just be feeling and treating them exactly the same. It's just a bet. It shouldn't make you feel any particular way. It shouldn't stress you out. You shouldn't commit any more thought to it than you would any other fight. And what I'm worried about is, I'm getting a lot of people message me saying, are you still big on Adesanya? Are you worried about this? Are you worried about that? Or people messaging me saying they're going big on Adesanya, and they kind of want reassurance from me that I still think he's going to win. And that's really worrying, guys, because if you need to seek reassurance about bets, in my opinion, you're betting too much money. You really are. You shouldn't be focusing this much on a bet or getting this stressed out or emotional about a bet. In order to win money in this game, you need to play the long game. This is a marathon. This is not a sprint. You know the saying, slow and steady wins the race. And you will not make money in this game if you commit too much of your money to one bet, because on any given night, any fighter can lose. Angela Manana could beat John Jones. On any given night, it could happen. It's a crazy sport. This is fighting. And you cannot put all your eggs in one basket. This is just one bet, guys. So don't go too big on it. I'm really worried that people are listening to what I'm saying and just committing too much of their money to one position. It's just not smart. You've got to spread your money out. You've got to use it wisely. Bankroll management is very important. The reason why 95% of people lose when it comes to gambling is because they implode and they make bad decisions. If you actually look at the numbers for specific betting lines, specific football matches or basketball matches or fights, betting sites don't actually make that much money. In fact, a lot of the time they lose. It's very close, the margin on how much they make, and sometimes they even lose. But they make their money by relying on people basically imploding and making bad decisions and being greedy or impulsive and just betting like a dumbass, basically. So don't be that guy. This is a war of attrition. If you consistently make good decisions over the long term, you will make money. If you consistently put your money in strong positions, you will make money. And remember that, guys. If you've got $100 to bet this weekend, don't put fucking 50 on Adesanya and 30 on Muhammad and then waste the other 20 on parlays and prop bets. Don't fucking do it. Everyone has to start somewhere. And when I started betting on MMA 10 years ago, I started out betting £5 on every single fight and grinding my way up. If you've only got $100 to bet this weekend, bet $10 on Israel Adesanya, $5 on Belal Muhammad, and use compound interest just to grind it up and play the slow game. Yes, it's boring. Yes, it's not going to feel that exciting if you only win $7 this weekend. But over time, if you stick to that, stick to compound interest, grow your money and grind it up over a long period of time, eventually you won't be betting $100. Or eventually you won't be betting $15, $20 on an event and maybe winning $5, $7. You'll be betting a few thousand and winning a few hundred profit or a few thousand profit. You see what I mean? Do your research on compound interest, how to grow a small pot of money into a large amount of money. And yes, it is slow, it is boring, it is a grind in the beginning, but at the end of the day, nothing's easy. And in life, if you want to make money, you have to start small and build your way up, because the same principles that you use when you're betting with big amounts will help you make money with small amounts. And to get to the big amounts, you have to practice making the right decisions and managing your money in the correct way with small amounts. So by the time you get to having a large amount of money to bet with, your brain's programmed into making the correct decisions, and then you feel no differently about betting $5,000 as you do about $5. That is my advice to you. And I didn't do that in part 1 or part 2 because too many morons watch parts 1 and 2 of the videos. The trolls, the people that just want to make the fast money, looking for the accumulators, the fucking stupid prop bets that are never going to win. Just the trolls that want to come out and basically make fun of me if my bets don't win. So that's why I saved that advice for part 4, because I know if you're watching this, you really do care about me, you care about the work I do, you trust the work I do, and you appreciate it. So this is where the good nuggets of wisdom are going to come in part 4 of these videos, because I know if you're watching this, you're a legit dude and you've got a real good chance of making some good money in gambling over time. Otherwise, you wouldn't be watching this, where I'm only going to be talking about fights the majority of people don't care about. So with that, guys, enough of the rambling. This video's already getting longer than I wanted it to be, because I don't want to waste your time. So let's jump straight in. The only other thing I wanted to say is that in part 3 of the video, I did say that I was going to be going to Google this week, and I was going to hopefully be able to vlog it. I did go to Google this week, which is the reason why I haven't put a video out in about 4 or 5 days. But I couldn't vlog it because the security was absolutely crazy. It was basically like going to an airport. When you go in, you have to put your bags through like bomb detectors and shit. Filming pictures are like not possible. Security are very heavy on it. I saw security guards whizzing around the building telling people off for like taking little selfies and stuff. So vlogging it was basically going to be impossible. And I mean, it would have been pretty shit anyway, because it wasn't as interesting a place as I thought it would be. But just to let you know, in case you're expecting that vlog, it's not going to happen. I couldn't do it. Security were all over it. So let's jump into the first fight that I want to talk about in today's video, which is going to be Alexandre Pantoja versus Wilson Reis. Now, Wilson Reis is one of those guys that is not an easy fight for anyone. He is definitely a tough matchup. He's a very skilled grappler, and one of these guys that's been around a long time. He's fought everyone. He's got a lot of experience, and he's reasonably skilled at everything. You know, he's a very, like I say, a decent grappler. Not the best striker, to be honest with you, but again, he can handle himself. What I'm basically trying to say is it doesn't really matter who you are in this flyweight division. I believe it's flyweight, unless they're moving up. Yep, they're still fighting at flyweight. I just had to check, because I know a lot of the flyweights are now moving up to bantamweight, where there being uncertainty over the division. But Wilson Reis is one of those guys. Is not going to be an easy matchup for anyone. That's why so many of his fights against tough guys like Dustin Ortiz, Jussier Formiga, Uka Sasaki, John Moraga, Ben Wynn have all gone the distance. He even went into the 3rd round against Demetrius Johnson, which shows you how legit this guy is. But he does have some weaknesses that could get him into trouble, and that have often got him into trouble in the past. You know, Wilson Reis is a little bit chinny. He does tend to get rocked and dropped in quite a lot of his fights, which isn't a good thing. Now, Alexandre Pantoja is not particularly dangerous striking, but he is very aggressive. He does commit hard to his strikes. And also, he's only 28 years old, so you would expect him to be making big improvements from fight to fight. So, you know, just because his striking hasn't looked that dangerous in the past, doesn't mean that he couldn't show up with a new set of skills for this fight and cause Wilson Reis some problems. And I'm going to be mentioning this quite a lot throughout the video, but even though it says that he trains at Nova União now, Alexandre Pantoja has actually been training at American Top Team for the last year or so, and we know American Top Team is probably the best MMA gym on the planet. Fighters that move to ATT to train often see massive improvements in a short space of time, so I'm expecting big things from Pantoja. I'm expecting to see big improvements from fight to fight as he gets better and better. Remember a few weeks ago, can't remember which card it was, remember I recommended a bet on Jussier Formiga as an underdog against Davison Figueiredo. And Formiga obviously won that fight quite comfortably. The reason why he won it was because in the last 2 years, since moving to American Top Team, he's been able to develop a completely new set of skills which make his style much more effective. And I'm hoping we'll see the same from Pantoja. So just because his striking hasn't been that dangerous in the past, doesn't mean that it might not be this weekend. So with striking covered, with Reis being a little bit chinny, getting dropped a lot, Pantoja's very tough, to be honest with you. He's got a decent chin. Wilson Reis isn't that dangerous standing, so I don't really see Reis posing Pantoja too much of a threat. I think if this fight stays standing, Pantoja would be able to outstrike Reis quite comfortably. But both these guys are primarily grapplers, so I would expect this fight to go to the ground. And, oh, guys, one more thing I just forgot to say. I've just completely forgot to mention it at the beginning of the video. I've already booked in the live stream for this week for UFC 236, so you can see it here. If you go into my channel page, you'll see it scheduled. I've scheduled it for 7 p.m. British time, but if you obviously go into the channel page here, it's going to display the time that is for you, wherever you live. I'll definitely be doing this live stream, 100%. I forgot to mention the time I booked it in for earlier. And also just wanted to say that this live stream will be about 4.5 hours before UFC 236 starts. Just wanted to get that out of the way. It is booked in. I'm 100% doing it. Unless I get hit by a bus or something, I'll be there. Back to this fight. Both these guys primarily grapplers, so I would expect this fight to go to the ground. I would expect there to be a lot of grappling exchanges. Now, Wilson Reis is the stronger wrestler, which is interesting. Reis is primarily a BJJ guy. Reis competes in a lot of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournaments. But Alexandre Pantoja is a very, very high-level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner. Not the strongest wrestler. I definitely give Reis the advantage when it comes to wrestling. But Pantoja is a very high-level black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And he's also a former Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu coach at Nova União. When you think, how good guys like Renan Barão, Claudio Gadelha, Junior dos Santos, Jose Aldo, Hakrin Diaz, when you think of how good all those fighters are on the ground, all those fighters that came up learning their skills at Nova União, there's a good chance, that Pantoja was one of the guys coaching them and helping them develop their skills. So if they're knowing how good those fighters are, especially like Gadelha, Aldo, Barão on the ground, Hakrin Diaz as well, you can imagine how good this guy is. Pantoja is legit on the ground. So even though Reis is a high-level grappler, there are obviously levels to grappling, and Pantoja is just a level above Reis. So even though Reis is the stronger wrestler, Pantoja should get the edge if the fight goes to the ground. He should be able to put Reis in some bad positions. So what does that mean from a betting perspective? So if we take a look at the current odds, we can see that... where are they? So at the moment we've got Alexandre Pantoja at average odds are around about 1.67, which is minus 149, giving him an implied probability of 60%, 60%. And he is fighting Wilson Reis, whose average odds at the moment are around about 2.30, which is plus 130 for an implied probability of 43%. So this is a 60-40 fight in favour of Pantoja, which I definitely would agree with. He should be the favourite because he's got an advantage striking and he's the better grappler. But the question is there any value in his odds? And to be honest with you guys, I think there might be a little bit. There is a little bit of value here. His odds at the moment give him an implied probability of 60%. And what I would say about this fight is Pantoja's advantages on the ground and standing up are quite significant. So I do give him a better than 60% chance of winning. But I'm not sure if it's as much as 70%. In fact, it's definitely not as high as 70%. I wouldn't give him a 70% chance of winning. So I cap Pantoja somewhere between 60 and 70% of winning this fight. So what I'm trying to say is there is a little bit of value on Pantoja here, but not much. It's a marginal position to put your money in. Whether you want to bet Pantoja here really depends on your risk tolerance and how much money you've already got on the table here. Because personally, I've got a lot more money on the table in pre-fight betting on UFC 236 than I would normally have. So my two bets so far, Israel Adesanya and Belal Muhammad. And I'm also contemplating 3 other bets. So what you don't want to do is have too much money on the table for one particular event. Because on any given night, trust me guys, it can happen. It doesn't matter how much you know about MMA, how much research you do. On any given night, every single bet that you place can lose. So it's important not to have too much of your money on the table at any one time, because you don't want to put a big dent in your bankroll, because that really slows down compounded growth. So because I'm so happy with the bets that I've got so far, because I'm contemplating a few other bets, I have to see something really, really special for me to place more bets, is basically what I'm trying to say, because I don't want to risk too much money on any one particular event. You know, better to live to fight another day and go for that slow growth than having those big swings up and big swings down that can hurt your compounded interest growth. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do about this fight, guys. I might bet Pantoja, I might not. I'm basically just going to see how the odds move over the next few days, give it some more thought. Like I say, I do think there's a bit of value there, but not much. And, you know, like I always say, I earn the majority of my money through live betting, and I think this fight could be a good fight for live betting. I know a lot about both fighters. I know what I'd like to see from both guys. So, you know, there's not that much of a need for me to bet this pre-fight and put money on the line beforehand, when I can just start to see how the first few minutes unfold in the fight and then make my decision in live betting. But it all depends on what type of gambler you are, you know. Whether you bet Pantoja or not, for me, would depend on whether you can live bet. You know, what's your risk tolerance? How much money are you happy to have on the table on one specific event? You know, are you playing with a small bankroll so you don't mind taking more risks and having more bets per event? You know, that's for you to decide. Do your own research. You know, all their past fights are available on Fight Pass. It's only like $7 or $8 a month or something, and the money you save making better betting decisions will more than pay for the Fight Pass subscription. So go back and watch some of their past fights and see what you think. There is a little bit of value on Pantoja there, but it's not an amazing deal. You know, like I always say, I like to love my bets. I like to really feel passionate that I've got a good deal when I bet a fighter, and I don't believe that Pantoja is a great deal. There's a good, you know, the odds are reasonable. There's a bit of value there, but not that much. So let's move on to the next fight, guys, which is Soukhamthath versus Montel Jackson. Now, Montel Jackson is the biggest favourite on the card, which is very interesting because he's quite inexperienced, to be honest with you. He's only 7-1. You know, 8 pro fights isn't a lot. And when he started to face a real big step up in competition against Ricky Simone, he really displayed very poor fight IQ and perhaps lacked the mentality to perform at his best in a tough fight. I feel like Montel Jackson kind of conceded victory in this fight, kind of conceded winning positions, and kind of beat himself against Ricky Simone, if I'm honest with you, which is a bit of a concern. Now, with Montel Jackson being such a big favourite, straight away I want to go into talking about the odds on this fight. So as we can see at the moment, where is he? So Jackson is around about an average of, call it an average of 1.22. Oops. 1.22, which gives him, money line odds of minus 455 for an implied probability of 82%. So to get any real value on Jackson at all here, you have to give him an 87% chance or better of winning this fight, which means that he pretty much has to have no way of losing, which, when you take into consideration, you know, bad judging, a bad weight cut, the fact that fighters often can be injured, you know, the risk of a DQ or a point deduction, you know, it becomes very risky. In order to bet on a fighter as big a favourite as this, they literally have to have basically no way to lose. And obviously I don't see that about a guy like Montel Jackson, who is inexperienced, he's still learning, and he kind of quit against Ricky Simone and kind of accepted losing, didn't perform to the best of his ability at all, which suggests to me that if ever he's put in a bad position, you know, if Soukhamthath could drop him or hurt him bad, there's a potential that Jackson could look for a way out. You know, some of the things that I saw from him in the Ricky Simone fight, like giving up easy takedowns, accepting being on the bottom, not really working that hard to get back to his feet, they were a concern. Now, if we go into this fight from a technical point of view, discuss how they match up stylistically, I would say that these are two fighters with an identity crisis. And I have to retreat a little bit there before talking about Jackson's wrestling, because there's no way that a guy like this should be getting taken down by a guy like Ricky Simone. Montel Jackson was training to compete in the Olympics for the United States of Freestyle Wrestling. This guy's grappling is at a super high level. He is absolutely legit. But he does have a bit of an identity crisis in that he likes to try and kickbox with the majority of his opponents, which drives me absolutely crazy. I hate when fighters are elite level at one thing, but they want to be something else. And that's another reason that makes it difficult to trust Montel Jackson in this fight. You know, Andre Soukhamthath has got very poor takedown defense and a really low level ground game. I often mention the fighters can react to being taken down in two different ways. They can go the team alpha male style, where as soon as their butt hits the floor, they treat it like lava and they immediately pop back to their feet before their opponent can flatten their shoulders out on the canvas. Or they go down the Curtis Melender route, where when their opponent takes them down and their butt hits the canvas, they'll roll to their back, allow their opponent to secure a dominant position and flatten their shoulders out on the canvas, and just accept being on the bottom, and that's what Soukhamthath does. So really, you think he's doomed against an Olympic level wrestler like Jackson, and in theory he should be doomed, to be honest with you, because if Jackson does come out into this fight with a grappling heavy game plan, he should be able to ragdoll Soukhamthath all over the cage and easily out-grapple him. I'm just concerned that if Jackson tries to get into a kickboxing match with Soukhamthath, he may get into trouble. But Soukhamthath is also a fighter with an identity crisis, because even though he appears to have abnormal power for the bantamweight division, you know, Soukhamthath's got a very nice stiff jab. Soukhamthath rocks or drops almost all of his opponents. For some reason, he feels the need to try and take his opponents down, which often gets him into a lot of trouble. Most of the time when Soukhamthath's on his back is because he's tried to tie his opponent up and take them down, and they've been able to actually reverse position and take him down. So Soukhamthath needs to really work hard to try and keep this fight standing in order to win, because obviously I do give him a slight advantage over Jackson when it comes to striking. Now Jackson is a guy that quite honestly could be brilliant. He's got a long, lean frame. He's basically got the same body type as a Curtis Melender or an Israel Adesanya or a John Jones. He is incredible, to be honest with you. He's got a perfect body type for MMA. Most guys with that sort of lean, skinny frame tend to be bad wrestlers. They tend to have really bad takedown defense. Curtis Melender is a very good example. He has some of the worst takedown defense in the UFC. You know, you think about guys like Jalen Turner, who's also competing on this card, has poor takedown defense. Stefan Struve, the best example I can think of. But every once in a while, you get an outlier like John Jones that not only can they fight long and use their reach and develop very technical striking, but they also develop very high-level wrestling, grappling, takedown defense with it, and that's what makes them a total monster. Because really, this body type is the perfect body type for MMA, and when you add wrestling and grappling into the mix, they just become the ultimate fighter, to be honest with you. It's the perfect storm. It's the best body type with the most dangerous set of skills. And that's why I'm so high on Israel Adesanya. I see the same thing in him. He's very difficult to take down. Strong grappling, immediately pops back to his feet when he gets taken down. Very hard to hold down, similar to John Jones. And I see the same thing in Montel Jackson. I would say he's much more similar to Adesanya and John Jones than a Curtis Melender or a Jalen Turner, because he has got his grappling background, being, you know, an Olympic level wrestler, at least training to compete in the Olympics, and he's got decent technical striking as well. So I am very high on Montel Jackson, but he showed some mental weakness in the Ricky Simone fight, where he was getting taken down and controlled for long periods by Ricky Simone. And a grappler as high level as Montel Jackson shouldn't be put in those positions. So with this fight, guys, it's an interesting one. What I would say is, because of the mental weakness that he showed against Ricky Simone, I don't recommend Montel Jackson as a bet, because, like I said, weight cuts, injuries, disqualifications, point deductions, bad fight IQ. There's no way you can cap this guy at 87% or better of winning this fight. But at the same time, I'm not rushing out to bet on Andre Soukhamthath. I don't think there's any value on him either, because even at these odds, which, you know, around about an average of, call it 5.0, which is plus 400, giving him an implied probability of 20%, the reality is, if Montel Jackson lost this fight because he was octagon jitters and he's now shaking them off, and now we're going to see him at his best, because he certainly looked incredible against Brian Kelleher. if Montel Jackson really does start to put it all together and this fight was just a blip, then the reality is that he should absolutely dominate Soukhamthath and completely ragdoll him around the octagon for 3 rounds. So I've just got no interest in betting on a fighter that is likely to get dominated if their opponent shows up, fights smart, and performs to the full potential they're capable of. So the final fight that I want to cover in today's video, guys, is Nikita Krylov against St-Preux. Now, this is an interesting fight because Nikita Krylov is just one of those guys that people think is better than he really is. So he's kind of like, there are certain guys in MMA that for whatever reason, a lot of people, like, you know, the guys that post on Sherdog forums, on Twitter and stuff, they just seem to love these fighters, and they seem to put their strengths on a pedestal and build them up to be better than they actually are, and they seem to just ignore their weaknesses. You know, some examples of guys like this are Derek Lewis, Alexei Olenek, who's fighting on the next card at UFC Russia, and Kelvin Gastelum as well. There's kind of like this, with Gastelum, there's kind of like this perception from people that Gastelum's some kind of strong wrestler when he just isn't. He's never displayed good offensive wrestling in any of his fights. Yeah, sure, I'm sure he has taken some guys down, but certainly not really anywhere near the level of grappling you need to cause fighters a problem, usually at top 5 or top 10 level. And Nikita Krylov's definitely one of those guys the casual fans seem to think is better than he really is. And we're seeing that in his odds. If we look here, Krylov's currently the favourite over St-Preux, when is pretty insane, to be honest with you, because if we look at his last 2 fights in the UFC, so he's lost his last 2 fights here, he's beaten some absolute bums, to be perfectly frank with you, outside of the UFC after being released. And his only wins over in the UFC were against really low-level guys. You know, Ed Herman was a middleweight who's way past his prime. Francimar Barroso, no longer in the UFC, very low-level guy. Marcos Rogerio de Lima, you know, he's a tough guy, but also can quit very easily. Stanislav Nedkov, no longer in the UFC. Cody Donovan, no longer in the UFC. And he actually fought over St-Preux back in 2014 and lost. So, really, Nikita Krylov never really got a win over anyone who's meaningful, to be honest with you. His wins have come against low-level guys, but people still think he's a great fighter. And he is a great fighter. I don't want to be too critical of him, but people are building him up to be better than he actually is. So Nikita Krylov has got basically a Kyokushin karate background, but he's not really that dangerous. Like a lot of Kyokushin guys, the majority of his strikes come from kicks. His boxing, his hands aren't really that dangerous. It's very hard to get the better of a guy like OSP with kicks, because OSP does a really good job of protecting his chin. He's got good striking defense. Even though he fights with his hands low, he does fight very long, and he does use his power to put his opponents into a defensive shell. OSP really sits down hard on his shots and commits hard to his shots. He fights very long, and he covers a lot of distance when he lets his hands go and his kicks go, which means when he lands on people, he really gets their attention, and that makes them think twice about chipping away at him with volume, because they know at any time if they land on him and he fully commits to a counter, they're only ever 1 strike from being knocked out. So I don't think Krylov's going to cause OSP that many problems, to be honest with you, standing. I really don't. In order to really hurt OSP standing, I think Krylov would have to knock him out with his hands. I don't think his kicks would be enough to get it done. And in order to do that, he's going to have to put himself in a lot of danger. And if you go back and watch the Fabio Maldonado fight, particularly the second round between Krylov and Maldonado, you can see that Krylov's not really that comfortable a boxer. Didn't really want to commit and get into boxing range against Maldonado for fear of being countered. And if OSP was in the same positions that Maldonado was against Krylov, I think that OSP would be able to hurt Krylov very bad or potentially knock him out. But the biggest weakness of Krylov overall is his takedown defense and ground game. His takedown defense is not good at all. and his ground game is extremely low level, which is interesting in this fight because we know Ovince St-Preux has got a very high level ground game. He's got multiple submissions on his record. In fact, he beat Nikita Krylov when they last fought by Von Flue choke, or they should start to call it the St-Preux choke because he's hit so many of them, much more than Jason Von Flue, who this choke is named after. So as we know, OSP, very, very talented grappler, very heavy top game, strong wrestling, very, very technical submissions. And if he can get this fight to the ground, he should be able to cause Krylov all kinds of problems. And to be honest with you guys, I do think St-Preux will be able to take Krylov down. Krylov doesn't have the best takedown defense, and Ovince St-Preux commits very hard to a deep double leg takedown, and he's very, very good at securing it. He's got a very nice deep double leg takedown, and because he's got an 80-inch reach, it's also very, very difficult for his opponents to stuff his takedowns because his arms are so long. He's able to reach around the body or the legs of his opponent, secure his hands together on a tight body lock, and either drag him to the floor or pick him up and complete the double leg takedown. So when OSP fully commits to a takedown, it's very hard to stuff. And from what I've seen, I don't believe Krylov has the takedown defense to stuff his takedowns. But OSP does have his own issues, let's be real. It's no secret that OSP slows down significantly as the fight progresses. He knows he's got cardio issues. Everyone knows he's got cardio issues. And that means he has to pace himself. He cannot fight at a high pace for 15 minutes. In fact, he can't even fight at a high pace for 5 minutes without taking some big deep breaths. So for that reason, he's got to manage the clock and manage his output. So he does throw a low volume of strikes per round. What he does to stay competitive in striking exchanges is a little bit of what I spoke to earlier on, where rather than trying to outstrike his opponent, he'll try and force his opponent into dropping their volume by scaring them basically with big power shots so that they're more reluctant to open up. You'll see OSP blitz his opponent and try and hurt them bad so that they think twice about starting to let their hands and their kicks go. And that is basically OSP's way of staying relatively competitive in a fight. The majority of OSP's opponents outstrike him because he is a low volume striker. You only really see him land between 6 and 10 strikes per round. But every single strike that he does throw and land has the ability to knock opponents out. And also, because he does hit so hard, he's so devastating, like I say, he can put his opponents into a defensive shell. And I think that's what we might see from Krylov. But there is a very, very good chance Krylov will outstrike him because his output is so low. And also, because he's got to manage his cardio, you'll only really see him fully commit to a takedown once per round. So if his opponent stuffs that takedown, the fight's going to go back into kickboxing range. OSP is going to be too tired to be competitive in the striking exchanges or go for another takedown for that round. So OSP is probably going to end up losing that round unless something big happens. But what I would say OSP's got a lot better at over the years is now that he's kind of accepted that his cardio is not the best, he does a really good job of recovering in between rounds. He also does a really good job of pacing himself. So in the past, if OSP would gas hard in the first round, he'd be tired for the rest of the fight. He'd be completely useless. But I don't know how he's done this. But now, even though he might look tired in like the last minute and a half, minute of each round, when he catches a breather in between rounds, he looks relatively fresh and good to go again at the beginning of the next round, which is impressive. I don't know how he's done it, but it's definitely something new that he's built into his arsenal. So, where does that leave us from a betting perspective? So, obviously this isn't going to be a rock solid bet if you bet OSP. I mean, there's no way I would bet on Krylov just because his takedown defense isn't great and his ground game is so low. You know, if we look at his odds here, currently an average of around about 1.89, which is minus 112 for an implied probability of 53%. I don't think Krylov should be the favourite here at all. I think it's crazy he's the favourite in actual fact. OSP should be the favourite here. If we look at OSP's odds, they are currently around about an average of, call it 2.0, which is plus 100, giving him an implied probability of dead on 50%. And to be honest with you guys, there's definite value there. There is definite value there. If I'm capping this fight, based on OSP's ability to get this fight to the ground and how dominant he would be on the ground, he's got a decent decent advantage here. There's a decent bit of value. I'd cap OSP as having around a 60% chance of winning this fight, which means you've got a decent margin here with the odds currently being at 50%. OSP is someone you should bet this weekend, guys. But don't go too big, because there are obviously some risks associated with betting OSP. The first being, he is a very low volume fighter. He has to pace himself. And we know that Krylov is way more active. Krylov's got good cardio for 3 rounds. If OSP can't get this fight to the ground, there's a very legit chance that Krylov could outstrike OSP and win a decision. So that's the first risk. Second risk is obviously OSP's cardio. Now, if he committed really hard to a finish early in the fight and gassed out and Krylov survived, Krylov could take over and win the fight. So there are some risks there. The low output, the cardio is a problem. But OSP should be able to get his fight to the ground. And when he does, I really think there's a very high probability that he'll submit Krylov, because Krylov's ground game is just at such a low level. But what I would also say, guys, is OSP's odds are improving. So I'm not going to bet him yet. So we can see OSP opened up at around about a 1.65 favourite, which, interestingly, is basically exactly where I would cap him. So the bookies set the odds spot on this fight. The bookies did their homework. They capped OSP at 1.65, which is roughly minus 154 for an implied probability of 61%. And like I just said, I give OSP around about a 60% chance of winning. These odds are spot on. But then the casual bettors, the betting public, they've bought into the hype on Krylov. You know, he's got some highlight reel wins. He's an exciting finisher. I'm sure a lot of people read the Sherdog forums, read all these guys on Twitter, the MMA media, and they've bought into the hype that Krylov is better than he is. And for that reason, a lot of money's coming on Krylov. A lot of people have been betting Krylov, which means as the last few weeks have progressed, the odds have gradually got better on OSP. Because remember, the odds move depending on which way people bet the fighters. So when money comes in on Krylov, the odds on OSP would improve while the odds on Krylov decline. So I think the odds opened on OSP were accurate, but now they're just getting silly. And this isn't the betting sites doing this. The betting sites did their job. The betting sites capped this fight perfectly. But the reason why the odds are improving is because people don't do their homework. They buy into the hype and they place bad bets. But the bookies don't care, because they're just looking to balance the books and take a margin. So even though there's a lot of value on OSP at the moment, that's not down to the betting sites. They've done a great job in setting the accurate open line. This is purely down to the public making bad betting decisions. And we'll see that a lot on these big events. You know, the amount of people that are calling me out saying that the Adesanya is a bad bet, calling me out saying Belal Muhammad's a bad bet. It's just absolute nonsense. They're not. Muhammad and Adesanya are two of the best bets of the year so far, but people are really dumb and they just don't do their homework. They buy into the hype. But hopefully we will make some money this weekend, guys. So what I would say is definitely bet OSP this weekend. He's decent value at these odds. But don't bet him yet, because the odds are still improving. And I'm sure as more casual bettors start to place their bets this weekend, you know, the majority of casual bettors will bet on, you know, Friday and Saturday. The odds are likely to get much better on OSP. So hold off for now. Don't bet him yet, because I'm sure they'll get better. So that is it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hopefully will see you in the live stream, which I'll be doing about 4.5 hours before UFC 236. Don't forget to go on my channel and see what time it starts wherever you live. And thanks for watching. Please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and please also give the video a like. It would mean a lot to me. But take care, guys. I will see you soon.
Too many thoughts on my mind, I can't sleep at night, so I just keep writing. I don't need no help, I don't need opinions, so don't waste my time then. I just been living online, my city don't show me no love, and that's fine. Fuck local radio stations, I got more plays than all of these rappers combined. I'm going again, I've been going in, I'm fed up with so many things, I gotta just let it all out. I'm talking about the shit they've been talking.